Gonzaga Nation SI, Dan Dickow here with a last-minute draft preview. I know we've covered some different thoughts and some different ideas over the last month or two in regards to Gonzaga players, Drew Timme, Julian Strawther, and even to a certain extent, Malachi Smith, what their opportunities may be, as well as fellow WCC standouts, Brandin Podziemski and Maxwell Lewis. Well, we're day of the draft, a few hours away now, and wanted to just give my last few thoughts on each of these guys, if and when I expect them to hear their names called. So we'll start with the one player who I don't expect to have their name called tonight, and that would be Malachi Smith. He's not going to get drafted, but a lot of times you go through this pre-draft process to kind of be put in a setting and an environment where you learn what pros are like. You learn what the pro game is like. You learn pro terminology. You go up against high-level guys. You are exposed to evaluators and scouts, and they're able to see you and your strengths and weaknesses, flaws, and things that are good about your game. Give you some feedback, and then have the ability to maybe be invited to a G League training camp, or maybe be on a summer league team. So those are that's what I expect the process to have been a benefit for Malachi. As far as Gonzaga players, Drew Timme mentioned it in, I believe it was a mailbag episode or a WCC Weekly earlier this week about it might be beneficial for Drew Timme not to get drafted, because then he could pick and choose where he goes and where he may fit best as a undrafted free agent. But I do think Drew Timme will be drafted. If you look at, there's a lot of really good mock drafts out there, from The Athletic to CBS Sports to ESPN, you name it. There's some really good and dialed in analysts putting together mock drafts, and some of them you see Drew Timian, probably more than not Drew Timme is excluded in. But I just have the feel that he's been such a good player at the college level. Somebody's going to want to take a chance on him. Probably have him split time between the NBA team and the G League team, and really see if they have something special at that next level. We all know he's a special player at the college level. Sometimes that translates to the NBA game. Sometimes that does not. So we will see. Julian Strawther, on the other hand, should definitely be hearing his name called. I would imagine, starting up around that 35 pick is where, you're going to really, as a Gonzaga fan, start really kind of locking in and paying attention. Who's got the pick? What does their roster look like? What trades have possibly made? I mean, shoot, we already saw a trade today with Chris Paul going to the Warriors, Jordan Poole, and draft picks heading to the Wizards. So lots of interesting things have already happened in the world of NBA trades. Rumblings with free agency starting to go on. But again, right around that 35 mark, I'd start really paying close attention to Julian Strawther, what teams he may have worked out for, which teams may have a need for a big wing who can shoot it. Last two guys wanted to touch on from WCC opponents. First, Maxwell Lewis from Pepperdine. He will be drafted. There's some buzz about him sneaking into that first round. If not, he will definitely be picked early in the second round. I would imagine he goes before Julian Strawther if he slides to the second round, just with everything that I've seen. With his upside, I think Maxwell Lewis will be drafted before Julian Strawther. And then in regards to Brandin Podziemski, he will be the first WCC player drafted tonight. Last year, obviously, there was a big presence in the lottery from the WCC with Chet Holmgren, and then Jalen Williams from Santa Clara a season ago. But this year, Brandin Podziemski was invited to the green room in the NBA draft back in New York. So that shows you something. And typically the NBA invites anywhere from about 15 to 20 players that, as the NBA front offices have been polled, they get a pretty good consensus of what guys are going to be in that first 15, 18, 20 picks, because they don't want guys sitting in that green room as the night drags on and they haven't been drafted. But for him to be invited, that shows you that he has definitely skyrocketed up some draft boards. I would imagine right around that 16 mark, so late lottery, he starts getting some interest in regards to, do we pick him here, or does he just slide just slightly out of the lottery? But all in all, I think it's going to be another good night for the WCC in regards to players getting drafted, elevating the level of the programs, not just Gonzaga, but programs throughout the whole WCC, allowing potential recruits to see that you have big dreams, they can be achieved and accomplished in the WCC, regardless of what school you're at. So there you have it. My final preview of the 2023 NBA draft. I'm sure we will be having some coverage you will want to be staying in tune with as the night goes on and as tomorrow goes on in regards to Gonzaga's Julian Strawther and Drew Timme and where they eventually land. So take care. Have a good one. Enjoy the draft.